Hello and welcome to the Serenity Among Chaos podcast. The following is going to be a transcript of the first episode, The War You Don't See. Okay, so if you're anyone who actually thinks about anything at all, I think you already came to the conclusion that there's something wrong. Maybe there's something wrong with you, maybe there's something wrong with the world, or maybe it's both. But one thing that we can agree on is that this feeling is not just something random. We feel these things because we have something built inside of us that tells us that there's something wrong. And I want to tell you right now that I don't think you're crazy. I actually feel all of these things too. And we can talk about some of the things that are going on. One of the things that I want to talk about is the war. There's a war going on outside today. I'm not talking about the war that is fought with guns and physical violence. I'm talking about another type of war. Even though this war that I just mentioned is also one that is going on, there's another type of war that's going on. And this war is the war on our minds, to control our minds. This is not some sci-fi movie type of thing. This is something real that is happening right now. And I'm sure you're really aware of it. Since the very moment you were born, you are forced into this war. Because since the very moment you were born, you are obligated to do a lot of things. You are forced, for example, to be capable of integrating yourself into society. You are obligated to do certain things within society. And this doesn't mean that there's something wrong with that in itself, but it means that there's a lot of things that we can agree on that are forced upon you. And one of these things is just life. You are obligated to breathe. If you have to breathe, if you don't breathe, you're going to die. If you don't eat, you're going to die. Well, you can say, well, I can choose death. Maybe I don't want to live. I can choose death, which is the end of reality as far as we know, or we are able to describe it. But, we have religion. We have a lot of things that explain what happens, or they try to tell you what happens after you die. But I don't want to go that way right now. So this is what happens when you are born. You are forced into all of these things. But if you decide to live, there's a lot of things that you are going to face when it comes to this war against the mind and the ideologies. So even though we are forced to do a lot of things, we still have the capability of choice. Of course, choice brings a lot of consequences. Choice brings responsibilities. But that's one of the things that happen with freedom. Freedom brings consequences and brings responsibility for your own actions. That's what happens. That's what you accept to have when you decide that you are a free thinking mind and being existing in this world. So even though we are stuck, even though we can be put in a prison physically, mentally we can still be free. Because we can choose where we have to go, where we want to go mentally. So we know that what happens on this, let's say, metaphysical realm of ideas is also bound to affect the physical reality. So our thoughts are literally what we see around us. Everything we see around us is a manifestation of our thoughts and ideas translated into action. So what happens in this world is happening because of this, because of our decisions and the things that we decide to do with it. So we can decide, or we, depending on what happens, maybe a depression or anything, we can decide, okay, I don't want to live anymore. I want to end life, at least as we know it, or as I know it, or maybe like a metaphorical death, which is a new beginning. Start over, kill the person we were, become a new person, and become a better version. Or maybe become worse, depending on what we want to do. If this makes any logical sense, I think it's safe to assume that everything that happens in this world is our responsibility, and everything that has been happening is our responsibility, because everything we're doing is affecting the world we know, the places and the people that live in this world. We see this war going on every time we turn on our cell phones, every time we go watch TV, Every time you start your computer, every time we do all of these things, you see this war going on. The things constantly spamming and lights shining in your face and flashy things and a lot of things going on in all of these realms of ideas that are trying to get into our minds and control what we think and what we do and what we don't do and what we don't think. To be honest, you know about this war, but you've been brainwashed into comfort, into thinking that it doesn't have anything to do with you. So we actually see people dying. We see all of these things happening to other fellow human beings and to other living life forms. I mean, breathing life forms, and we just feel sad because we have empathy and because we are also a living being, a sentient beings, but then we just decide to go on with our lives without doing anything. So everyone has the freedom to do whatever they want, but you know that it has everything to do with you. You know it has everything to do with your family and with children and everything that is connected to the present and the future. But instead, most people just prefer to go on with their lives as if it's just my life and it's my thing and it's everything to do with me. But no, you're connected to everything else. The clothes you wear, the hats you put on, the color of your hair, the food you eat, everything is connected to everything else. Everything is connected to someone else's life. Everything is connected to someone else's dream. Everything is connected to everything else. So there's nothing yours, nothing belongs to us. Everything here is the connection with everything else. And everything we do affects everything else around us. So once again, we have the responsibility of dealing with these things. So why is it that we don't do it then? I think that one of the biggest reasons is because of fear. Most people are afraid to do something to expose themselves because they want to be accepted by the communities. They want to be accepted by their friends. They want to be a sheep, really, and follow the herd. There's nothing strange about none of this. It's just normal human behavior. We try to choose comfort in places and things that, in situations that are not dangerous in order to satisfy our instinct to survive. So I think it's safe to say that in order for us to accomplish great things, sometimes we have to fight against our human nature of trying to run away from danger or just indulging in pleasures, temporary pleasures for instant reward. All of the progress that we've seen throughout human history, a lot of people say that it was because of a lot of great discoveries. But I think it was mostly because of great people who showed up in really crucial moments of human history. People with courage, people who are not afraid to put themselves out there and speak the truth. Speak the truth and face their own fears. And the majority of people who did not agree with them, even though they knew that they would probably get burned. So maybe that's one of the reasons why we decide not to stand up for the truth and for the things that really matter, because we see and we've seen these people as an example of what maybe we shouldn't do because we don't want to get burned on a cross. We don't want to be made of an example. So we know about these people. We read about them in books. We heard about them in songs and stories. And all of them had like a common end, which is they were either like burned on the cross or stoned to death, but they stood up for the truth. And today we still have people like this fighting for the truth. Every day, putting themselves out there, speaking up. They're being vocal about issues. They're starting movements. Even if it's just a small thing, they're doing something about it. There's people out there fighting this war that I'm talking about that you see every day. Every time you turn up your phone, you turn up the volume of your TV, when you go to your laptop, your computer, whatever, you know about this war. And you also know about the people who are fighting against this war. And this really is a war for humankind, for freedom and human rights and for the future. Otherwise, we're going to live in tyranny. We're going to go back in time. We're going to be slaves. We will be complete slaves, mentally and physically slaves. And when you are a slave, there's no end to the amount of suffering that someone who has absolute power over you can do for the benefit of their own interests. So I'm speaking these things to you, but I'm also saying these things to myself because this also applies to me and to everyone, which is, I'm ashamed to admit, but I have to accept that I've been gradually transitioning into a state of conformity. I've been conforming with a lot of things, and this is what they call a zombie. It's like I've been feeling like a zombie, a feeling of not being myself because I'm not speaking up. I'm not showing up and manifesting myself for the things that I see and I know that are wrong. There's always a feeling that we know maybe there's something we can do, something that we can do, but we don't do it. And we just gradually pile these things up until we become like a worthless zombie. And you just walk around and do things like you're turned off. We just do things because we're told to. You feel like there's something stepping over you all the time. And this is what leads people into depression. This is what leads people into suicide. It's because they feel this huge void and emptiness caused by gradually becoming like a zombie because of this war that is being fought and is being brought upon us within the realm of virtual reality and social media and the media. So this is literally a war because it is being done to us by other people. Well, I'm not saying that we should go out there and try to change the world or decide to change the world and it's going to go really well. That's not what I was saying, but that's what I'm going to say right now. That's what we should do. Of course, you have to start with yourself. Of course, we have to start with ourselves, with little things. If we're not good, if we don't have any order inside our own minds, in our world, whatever that is or what we consider it to be, we cannot go outside and try to change things on a bigger scale and hope to find a really good result. Maybe we're even going to do more damage and it's going to be even worse than we found it. Of course, there's a lot of things and a lot of situations where we should appeal to our sense and capability of applying rationality to problems. This is all very metaphorical, but it's also very literal. There's a war. This war was caused by us and it should be fought by us. It has everything to do with you. It has everything to do with me. We should arm ourselves with everything we can, including knowledge and truth. This has been going on since the moment we were born. Currently, there are a lot of people fighting for this. If we decide not to do anything and pretend that it doesn't have anything to do with us, we are most definitely going to face the consequences in the future because we can't run away from this. It's happening right now and we should do something about it because there's nothing better for us to do than actually trying to put or make the world a better place than we found it. And the world is me, you, us, and everything in it. So now, the question is, who is the enemy? Thank you for listening, and don't forget to have serenity among chaos and method in madness.